Commander Kale stood at the edge of the observation deck, staring at the endless stars that glowed outside the colony's shield dome. The human settlement on Eridan Prime was small compared to Earth, but it was strong, built to last, and defended by one of the finest fleets in the galaxy. Kale was proud of his duty. He was a soldier, a protector, and a leader of men. But tonight, his heart was restless. Somewhere in the hidden corners of the colony waited Lyra. She was not human. She belonged to the Elyari, a proud and ancient alien race who held high positions in the Galactic Council. Her people and Kale's people did not mix. Old grudges, politics, and fear kept them apart. Love between them was forbidden, punished, by exile, disgrace, and sometimes worse. Yet Kale and Lyra had found each other. Their first meeting had been by accident. Months ago, during a tense diplomatic mission, Kale had escorted human leaders into the Elyari Hall. There he had seen her, tall, graceful, with silver eyes that reflected starlight. She had spoken little, but when her gaze met his, Kale felt something he had never felt before. It was not duty, not command, not pride. It was something warm, alive, and dangerous. Since that day, Kale had been unable to stop himself. And to his surprise, Lyra had not turned away either. She had found excuses to meet him, small moments stolen between meetings, soft words shared where no one could see. They spoke of stars, of dreams, of their two worlds. Over time, the forbidden spark grew into something undeniable. And so, every few nights, Kale left his post for a short while and walked the hidden path through the lower colony, where shadows covered him from watchful eyes. He entered a quiet chamber deep inside the old tunnels beneath the colony. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of a small hololamp. Lyra was already there, waiting. "Kale," she whispered, her voice soft and musical. "Lyra," he answered, and his chest eased at the sound of her name. She stepped closer, her silver eyes shimmering. "It grows dangerous. Rumors spread quickly, even when there is no proof. If anyone discovers us—" "They won't," Kale said firmly, though in truth he knew the risk was rising. "I won't let them." Her lips curved in a sad smile. "You cannot protect me from shame. My council would strip me of my name. Your leaders would strip you of command. Our bond would destroy us both." Kale's jaw tightened. He was a soldier trained for war, not for words. But in this moment, he needed her to understand. "I don't care about rank. I don't care about councils. I care about you. I'd rather lose everything than lose this." For a heartbeat, silence filled the chamber. Then Lyra stepped into his arms, resting her head against his chest. Kyle held her close, feeling her warmth. It was dangerous, it was forbidden, but it was real. Outside, the galaxy carried on with its politics and power struggles. Inside that hidden chamber, only two hearts mattered. But unknown to them, shadows already moved. In another part of the city, a group of Elyari watched from the darkness. They were rivals of Lyra's family, ambitious and cruel. One of them held a small hollow recorder, its faint red light fading as it powered down. "We have them," one whispered. "The human commander and the council daughter. This will ruin them both." "Good," said another. "When their shame is revealed, the council will turn against her, and the humans will be humiliated. Our path to power will be clear." They slipped away unseen, carrying proof that would soon explode like fire across the stars. Back in the chamber, Kale and Lyra spoke in low voices. "Tell me," Kale asked, "why do you stay? You could end this now and protect your name." Lyra pulled back, her eyes steady. "Because I do not choose with fear. I choose with my heart. And my heart has chosen you." Kale felt a surge of strength. For all his battles, for all the medals on his chest, nothing made him feel as alive as her words. "Then whatever comes, we face it together." Lyra nodded, though worry clouded her gaze. Yes, together. The hollow lamp flickered, casting long shadows on the walls. Neither of them knew that in only a few days their secret would no longer be hidden. What was now a forbidden love would soon become a weapon in the hands of their enemies. For now, though, Cale kissed her forehead and held her close, memorizing the moment. Tomorrow he would return to his duties wearing the mask of a perfect soldier. Tomorrow she would sit among her council, her face calm and distant. But tonight, they belonged only to each other. And somewhere in the silence of the tunnels, the echoes of betrayal. The morning sun rose over Eridan Prime, casting golden light across the human colony. Commander Cale stood in the war hall, his posture straight, his face calm. Around him sat leaders, officers, and council envoys. Today was an important day. A summit between humans and Eliari was being broadcast live across the galactic channels. Every word spoken, every gesture made, would be seen by thousands of worlds. Cale was trained for such moments. He knew how to hold himself, how to speak with honor, how to show strength. Yet, beneath his armor of discipline, his thoughts drifted to Lyra. He had seen her last night, her eyes full of both love and fear. She had told him that whispers were spreading. Someone had noticed their meetings. He had dismissed it with steady words, but now as he stood before the council table, unease stirred inside him. The hall grew silent as Eliari delegates entered. Among them was Lyra, dressed in her silver robes, her expression distant and formal. She did not look at Kyle. She could not. In this place, they were strangers. The summit began. Human leaders spoke of peace, trade, and defense. Eliari spoke of cooperation and balance. Cameras recorded every moment. Across the galaxy, billions of eyes watched, and then everything broke. Without warning, the massive hollow screen above the hall flickered. The official broadcast was cut, replaced by new images, secret images. Gasps filled the chamber as the hollow showed Cale and Lyra together in the tunnels. They were close, too close for mere friends. The images revealed their hands, touching, their faces only inches apart, their voices whispering words of affection. A ripple of shock spread across the room. The human delegates froze in horror. The Eliari council members hissed in outrage. The cameras continued to stream, spreading the scandal across every channel in the galaxy. Cale felt his chest tighten. His secret, their secret, was no longer hidden. It was exposed before the entire galaxy. Lyra's face turned pale. She tried to hold her calm expression, but whispers rose around her. Disgrace. Betrayal. Shame. The Eliari elder struck the table. "This is dishonor," he thundered. "Our daughter of the council consorting with a human soldier in secret. This cannot be forgiven." Kyle wanted to speak, to defend her, but the human commander beside him leaned close and whispered harshly, "Stay silent. You will only make this worse." But silence burned worse than fire. Cale's honor was being torn apart, and Lyra's dignity was being destroyed before his eyes. The council erupted in chaos. Reporters and drones filled the hall, capturing every reaction. The scandal spread faster than light itself. "Commander, Cale," one of the human delegates said coldly, "what do you have to say for yourself?" Cale lifted his head, his voice firm. "I will not deny it. The images are true. Lyra and I, we care for each other." The words exploded like a shockwave. "You shame your command," the human leader shouted. "You shame the Eliari Council," the alien elder hissed. But Kyle did not step back. He looked at Lyra. Her silver eyes trembled, caught between love and ruin. "I will not abandon her," Kyle declared, his voice ringing across the chamber. "I will not hide what I feel." The hall shook with shouts. Some humans looked away in disappointment. Some Eliari glared with hatred. And yet, somewhere in the uproar, a few silent faces watched with curiosity, even respect. The summit collapsed into chaos. Security moved in, escorting Cale and Lyra out of the chamber. The broadcast ended, But the damage was done. Across the galaxy, their names were now tied together in scandal. Later, Kale stood alone in his quarters. His uniform felt heavier than ever, his medals like chains of shame. His superiors had ordered him to remain silent until further notice. His command was under review. His future was crumbling. A soft knock came at his door. When it opened, Lyra entered quietly. Her robe was torn, her face pale, her eyes filled with sorrow. "They called me traitor," she whispered. "They said I dishonored my bloodline. They will strip me of everything." Kyle clenched his fists. "And me? The council will demand I be removed. My soldiers may never trust me again." Lyra stepped closer, her voice shaking. "Kyle, perhaps we should end this. Perhaps if I leave, they will forgive you." "No," Kyle said sharply. He caught her hands and held them tight. "They can take my command, my honor, my life, but they cannot take you from me. Not unless you walk away." Tears filled her silver eyes. "I don't want to walk away." For a moment, the world outside faded. It was just the two of them again, holding each other against the storm. But the storm was not done. That same night, Kale received secret intelligence. A human spy had intercepted a message from the Eliari rivals. The ones who leaked the holo recordings were not satisfied with scandal. They were planning something bigger, an attack on the human colony during its moment of weakness. Kale stared at the report, his heart heavy. "So that was their plan all along," he muttered. "Expose us, shame us, and strike while we are broken." Lyra read the report over his shoulder, her face turning cold. "They will kill thousands. They will destroy you and use me as their excuse." Commander Kale stood in the shadows of the strategy chamber, his jaw tight as he studied the intercepted report once more. The words glowed on the holoscreen. Planned strike. Target. Eridan Prime Colony. The rival Eliari faction had timed their attack perfectly. The scandal had shaken trust in Kale, divided the council and thrown both humans and Eliari into arguments. It was the perfect moment for enemies to strike. But Kale was not broken. He would fight, and he would not fight alone. Lyra stood beside him, her silver eyes sharp. The shame of the summit still hung over her like a chain, but her spirit was unbroken. "They believe we are weak," she said softly. "They believe we are too blinded by disgrace to act. That is their mistake." Kale looked at her, and for a moment, he forgot the galaxy. He only saw her courage. "Then we make them pay for it. But we can't do it alone." That night, Kyle began to move in secret. He could no longer command openly. His superiors had frozen his authority. But he still had loyal friends among the soldiers. Quietly, he called them one by one, meeting in hidden places. Some hesitated at first, worried about Kale's scandal, but when they saw his determination, they swore to follow him. Among them was Lieutenant Mara, a sharp-eyed pilot. "The council may call you dishonored, Commander," she whispered, "but you've saved our lives more times than I can count. I don't care what they say, I'm with you." Others followed, a mechanic, a strategist, a few trusted Marines. They formed a small circle in the shadows, a hidden alliance born out of loyalty, not politics. Lyra, meanwhile, reached out to her own quiet allies. Not all Eliari despised her. Some younger members of her people admired her defiance. Through secret messages, she convinced a handful of them to pass information from inside the council chambers. They became her eyes and ears, risking everything to help her. Together, Kale and Lyra began to weave a web of resistance. Days passed. The scandal still dominated every holo channel. Every broadcast called Kale a traitor, a shame to humanity. Every council chamber whispered that Lyra had ruined her bloodline. But in the shadows, the two of them moved with purpose. One night, in the old tunnels beneath the colony, the hidden alliance gathered. Kyle spread a holomap across the stone floor. Red marks glowed, showing enemy fleets moving closer. They will strike within days, Kyle explained, his voice steady. If we wait for the council to act, it will be too late. We must stop them before they reach Eridan Prime. Lieutenant Mara leaned forward. But we're few. Even with ships, we can't face a fleet head-on. Kale nodded. Which is why we won't fight them head-on. We'll use speed, precision, and silence. We'll cut their supply lines, disable their communications, and force them into confusion. Once they're weak, the official fleets will be forced to act, whether they respect me or not. Lyra placed her hand over the map. I will guide you through their defenses. I know how my people think, how their ships move. With me, you will not be blind. The group looked at her with mixed feelings. She was still the council's disgraced daughter. But in that moment, her courage shone brighter than her shame. Slowly, one by one, they nodded. The plan was set. That night, Kale and Lyra shared a quiet moment before leaving the tunnels. You know this will only make our enemies hate us more, Lyra whispered. Kale gave a faint smile. Good. Let them hate us. It will make their fall even harder. Her lips curved into a sad smile. You speak like a soldier. I am a soldier, Kyle said softly. But with you, I'm something more. She touched his hand briefly, just enough to remind them both why they fought. The next evening, their hidden alliance launched its first move. Using stolen access codes, they slipped into the outer ring of the star system. There, a supply convoy, belonging to the rival faction, traveled without escort, confident that humans were too busy with scandal to strike. Kale's small strike team hit fast. Mara piloted her fighter like lightning, weaving through enemy transports. Marines boarded the cargo haulers, disabling engines and capturing supplies. Kyle himself led the breach, his rifle steady, his voice commanding. Within an hour, the convoy was taken. No official orders, no council approval, just a small band of loyalists and outcasts proving that shame could not break them. Lyra guided them through the operation, her knowledge saving lives. She identified Elyari command codes, warned of hidden traps, and even spoke to captured crews, convincing some to stand down instead of fighting. When the battle ended, Kale's soldiers cheered quietly, their voices echoing in the empty void of space. But Kale's mind stayed sharp. This is only the beginning. They'll know we're moving against them now. They'll send assassins, spies, anything to stop us. Lyra's eyes hardened. Let them try. I will not hide anymore. If I must choose between shame and action, I choose action. That night, as they regrouped in a hidden station, the warning came true. A silent shadow crept into the outpost. Elyari assassins, faces covered, blades drawn, struck with deadly speed. They came not for supplies, not for soldiers. They came for Kale and Lyra. The alarm rang, echoing through the corridors. Kale grabbed his rifle, shouting orders. Defend the station, keep them away from Lyra. But the assassins were fast, their movements sharp as lightning. One lunged toward Lyra, blade raised. She spun back, fear flashing across her face. Kale fired, dropping the attacker before the blade struck. He rushed to her side, his heart pounding. More assassins swarmed the station. Soldiers fought, shouting, their loyalty tested in fire and blood. Lyra clung to Kale's arm. They will never stop, she whispered. They will hunt us until we fall. Kale's eyes burned with fire as he reloaded his rifle. Then we'll never stop either. If they want to destroy us, they'll have to face us first. The battle raged in the shadows of the outpost as two lovers, once shamed, once disgraced, now stood as the heart of a hidden war. The outpost still smelled of smoke and burned circuits after the assassin attack. Commander Kale walked through the corridors, his rifle slung over his shoulder, his face set in grim focus. His soldiers were tired, bruised and cut, but they were alive. They had held the line. Lyra sat in the medical chamber, her arm wrapped in white bandages. She had fought as best she could, but Kyle had seen the terror in her eyes when the assassin's blade nearly struck her. Now, as he entered, she looked up at him. They will send more, she whispered. Each time stronger, more ruthless. They will never forgive us. Kyle knelt beside her. His hand rested gently on hers. Then we won't forgive them either. They've already taken our names, our honor. If they want to take our lives too, they'll have to fight for it. For the first time in days, a faint smile touched her lips. You sound like a man who has already decided his fate. I have, Kyle said quietly. My fate is with you. But beyond their quiet words, danger still grew. The rival Elyari faction had lost a supply convoy, and now their leaders were furious. Their fleets gathered in hidden systems, preparing for a strike that would shake Eridan Prime itself. The scandal had weakened the humans and Elyari Council. Arguments filled their halls. Some demanded Kale's arrest. Others wanted Lyra cast out forever. No one acted against the true threat. Kale and Lyra knew they could not wait. In the hidden chamber where their small alliance gathered, Kale spread out another hollow map. Red signals blinked closer to the human colony. They will attack within days, he told his soldiers. If we wait, Eridan Prime will fall before the Council even admits there's a danger. Lieutenant Mara crossed her arms. So what's the plan, Commander? Another raid? Kale shook his head. No. A raid will not be enough this time. We strike their command ship. If we cut off the head, the rest will falter. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The command ship of the rival Elyari was not just large, it was a fortress. To attack it with their small force would be madness. It cannot be done, one Marine muttered. That ship could fight an entire fleet. But Kale's voice remained steady. It can be done. With surprise, with precision, and with Lyra's knowledge. She knows their codes, their patterns. We use that to slip inside. Once we're there, we destroy their command corps. Without leadership, their fleet will scatter. All eyes turned to Lyra. She stood slowly, her silver eyes burning with determination. I will lead you through their defenses. I will give you every code I know, but understand this, if we fail, it will not only be our deaths. The Council will brand us as traitors to both races. Kale placed a hand on the table. Then we will not fail. The Alliance prepared in silence. Ships were fueled, weapons checked, armor fitted. The soldiers who followed Kale were few, but their loyalty was strong. They no longer cared for the whispers of shame. They cared only for survival and for striking back against those who had tried to break them. As the small fleet slipped into space, Kale stood at the front of his ship, the Resolute. Lyra was at his side, her hands moving across the holo controls as she guided them past Elyari patrols. Her voice was calm, her knowledge precise. Every word she spoke kept them hidden. Every code she gave kept them alive. But soon, alarms blared. The rival Elyari had noticed something was wrong. Ships moved to intercept. They've seen us, Mara shouted from the pilot's chair. Keep going, Kale ordered. We don't fight them, we reach the command ship. The command ship trembled under the explosions echoing through its core chamber. Sparks rained down from the ceiling, and alarms blared, warning of imminent collapse. Commander Kale and his small team fought with everything they had, every shot precise, every step deliberate. The rival Elyari soldiers were skilled, but they had never faced humans fighting for love, for honor, for survival. Kale's rifle roared as he pushed forward, shielding Lyra as she moved toward the next control panel. She had found a secondary system, one that could completely disable the enemy fleet if hacked successfully. Every moment counted. Almost there, she whispered, her fingers flying across the controls. Her silver eyes shone with determination, not fear. Just a few more seconds. The Elyari guards were relentless. A squad charged from the side corridor, forcing Kale to fire with deadly accuracy. His soldiers shouted, bullets and energy beams filling the chamber with light and smoke. Mara and the others held the line, creating a corridor for Lyra. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the chamber, throwing Kale to the floor. Dust filled the air, stinging his eyes. He scrambled up, his mind clear despite the chaos. Lyra's voice cut through the smoke. Kale, hurry. The system is almost ours. He sprinted toward her, firing at the remaining guards. Lyra's hands moved faster, bypassing security codes and activating the fleet control override. The screens flickered, showing ships in the outer fleet slowing down, engines cutting out, their coordination collapsing. Kyle's heart pounded. "It's working," he shouted. "Keep going, Lyra." The Eliari commander appeared at the far end of the chamber, a towering figure in black armor. He raised a weapon, his voice booming. "Stop them, kill them both, do not fail me." Kale met his gaze, he did not flinch. "We won't fail," he said, steady and calm. The commander charged. Kale dodged and fired, forcing the alien back. Lyra glanced at him, fear and trust blending in her expression. "Kale, be careful." "I always am," he said with a brief smile, even as he pressed forward. Together they moved like a single unit, Kale with his strength and skill, Lyra with her knowledge and courage. Every shot, every move was synchronized. The countdown on the charges planted around the crystal core ticked faster. 3, 2, 1. The core exploded in a brilliant flash of blue and white light. The entire ship shook violently. The Eliari. Commander screamed in shock as control systems failed. Lights flickered and the outer fleet lost all coordination. Kale grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her toward the escape shuttle they had docked. Outside, the stars were streaked with fire as enemy ships collided or drifted powerless. The small human fleet pressed its advantage, striking the disorganized Eliari vessels with precision. Once aboard the shuttle, Kale and Lyra shared a fleeting moment of relief. Their faces were streaked with sweat and soot, but their eyes met with triumph. "We did it," Kyle said, voice low but full of pride. Lyra nodded, breathing heavily. "Yes, we did." Even in the aftermath, the danger was not over. Communications crackled. The Eliari Council, furious over the failure and the exposure of Lyra's defiance, demanded answers. But Kale and Lyra had already turned the tables. Messages from other Eliari factions, impressed by their courage, began to support them quietly. Allies emerged from unexpected corners. Back on Eridan Prime, the public perception began to shift. Initially, Kale and Lyra were scorned. Headlines screamed of shame, betrayal, and disgrace. But when news spread of the daring mission, the bravery, the clever strategy, the saving of thousands, the tide changed. Humans who had doubted Kale's honor now spoke his name with respect. Eliari, who had condemned Lyra, began to whisper of her courage. The scandal that once threatened to destroy them became a symbol of defiance and unity. In a public broadcast, Kale addressed the galaxy. His face was serious, his voice steady. "Yes, Lyra and I were together when it was forbidden. Yes, we were shamed. But today, we fought not for love alone, but for every life in this colony, human and Eliari alike. Our honor is not defined by gossip, but by our actions." Across the stars, millions watched, and for the first time, humans and aliens alike saw Kale and Lyra not as scandal, but as heroes. Lyra stood beside him, her silver eyes shining. The council had been forced to reconsider, to see the courage and intelligence she had displayed. Slowly, she regained her honor, not through words, but through undeniable deeds. That evening, Kale and Lyra returned to the quiet chamber where they had first shared their secret. Soldiers and allies passed by, some bowing in respect, some whispering, "Congratulations." For a moment, the galaxy outside disappeared. It was just the two of them, hand in hand, battered but victorious. Kyle broke the silence. "Do you see? They cannot take what we fought for. They cannot take our courage, our hearts, or our love." Lyra smiled, leaning against him. "We turned shame into strength." "Yes," Kale said, looking at the stars above the dome. "And together we will show them that love, honor, and courage can overcome any obstacle." The galaxy had watched. What began as forbidden love, exposed to public shame, had become a story of heroism. Kale and Lyra had faced disgrace, danger, and betrayal and emerged stronger. They had proven that humans and aliens could unite, not just in war, but in respect, loyalty, and shared courage. And as they stood together, surrounded by the quiet hum of the colony, one truth was clear. Nothing, not scandal, not enemies, not even fear, could break them. They were not just lovers. They were warriors. They were heroes. And the galaxy had seen it all. The morning sun rose over Eridan Prime, spilling golden light across the colony. For the first time in weeks, the streets were calm. Ships floated quietly in the docking bays, and children played near the training grounds. The shadows of scandal had faded, replaced by a new light, the light of honor, courage, and unity. Commander Kale walked through the central plaza, his uniform clean, his posture proud. He no longer felt the weight of disgrace. The galaxy had seen what he and Lyra had accomplished. Their daring strike against the rival Elyari faction, their leadership under fire, and their unwavering courage had turned public shame into admiration. Lyra stood at his side, her silver eyes scanning the crowd. She had been welcomed back to her council, her honor restored. The whispers of betrayal had changed to murmurs of respect. Her actions had proven her loyalty, her intelligence, and her courage. A small group of humans and Elyari had gathered, their faces a mix of awe and gratitude. They had seen firsthand the power of determination and love, and they no longer judged the couple by old prejudices or politics. Kale raised his hand, addressing the gathering. We were once shamed for our bond, scorned for what we felt, and mistrusted for who we are. But today we stand together not as humans or Elyari alone, but as allies, as defenders, as a family that will protect our worlds. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. Disgrace once tried to define us. Fear tried to divide us. But courage, love, and truth have shown the galaxy that honor is not given. It is earned through action, through sacrifice, and through standing together. The crowd erupted in applause. Humans cheered for Kale's bravery, while the Elyari bowed to Lyra's wisdom. Where once scandal had reigned, unity now flourished. Back in the council chambers, discussions had shifted dramatically. Leaders who had once demanded Kale's removal now sought his advice on defense strategies. Elyari elders who had condemned Lyra now sought her guidance on diplomacy and intelligence. The enemy faction that had plotted scandal and attack had been defeated, their power broken. Kale and Lyra's relationship became a symbol, not of shame, but of what could be achieved when fear was faced and courage was chosen. Their love, once hidden in secret chambers, was now celebrated openly. It inspired humans and Elyari alike to look beyond old prejudices, to see the potential for collaboration and mutual respect. That evening, Kyle and Lyra returned to the observation deck. Stars stretched endlessly across the sky, silent witnesses to everything they had endured. You see it? Kale said softly, his arm around her shoulders. All of it. Our fight, our risk, our love. It mattered. The galaxy saw the truth. Lyra leaned against him, her gaze fixed on the stars. Yes. And it will remember. Our bond, our courage. It has changed more than just us. It has changed them too. Kale smiled faintly. Then all the shame, all the danger. It was worth it. Lyra's hand found his, their fingers intertwining. I would face it all again, Kale. I would face any danger, any challenge, if it means standing beside you. And Kale, for the first time in weeks, felt complete. He had faced disgrace, assassination, war, and betrayal. Yet here he stood, hand in hand with the woman he loved, both of them respected and honored. Their courage had turned shame into triumph and fear into unity. In the following weeks, the colony flourished. Humans and Elyari worked together to rebuild what had been damaged, sharing technology, resources, and knowledge. Joint training programs were established, strengthening trust between the races. Kale and Lyra oversaw many of these efforts, guiding both sides with wisdom born of experience. Visitors from distant systems came to see the colony that had survived scandal and attack, inspired by the courage of a human and an Elyari who refused to yield. Kale's fleet trained alongside Iliari pilots, learning new tactics, new strategies, and forming bonds that once seemed impossible. In private, Kale and Lyra returned to the quiet chamber where their love had begun, high from prying eyes.
I